Hari Om, welcome back to Shrevadhi channel. If you're the first time visitor, you can check out our channel's description to see the topics that we are covering, and also check out the playlist to see whether any of the topic interests you. And this particular video, as you might have guessed from the title, it's about the Panchakosha model as per Taittiriya Upanishad. If you are interested in taking up any of the yoga related activities, this is kind of provides you with a foundation. It's like knowing your fundamental mathematical operations, arithmetic operations before you start doing anything with mathematics, right? Just like that, having a good understanding of this Panchakosha model, how it actually explains our existence, that actually helps you to correlate the yogic practices that we take up. So this is more of a theory, yoga theory lesson. So with this doll, this basically, you might have guessed, this is a Russian doll that you might have seen. We get it even in Chanpatna and some of these handicraft stores. This originally was started in Russia, and these are the so it is like called Russian dolls. These are basically the nesting or stacking dolls. So now, why am I holding this? You will understand as we go into this video explaining the Panchakosha model. So if somebody asks you, who are you, right? Like that is just the identity. Like you will talk about your name and what you are currently doing. That's more about what you are. That's like the identity we get after we are born in this world, right? But if you have to define what you are made up of, you just say the answer typically that comes to us is body and mind. Basically, we are a combination of body and mind. Physical body, which is very, very visible. That is the what we call as Annamaya Kosha in Panchakosha model. So this actually the Panchakosha model is, what I'll do is I'll just talk about the Panchakosha model and then give you a little bit of background on how this whole concept is taken from Taittiriya Upanishad. Because some of you might just be interested in knowing the sheets and you don't want to know how it actually came about. So that is why I'm doing it in the reverse way. So the one thing that we obviously see when we see somebody is the body. That is the physical layer, that existence. So that is our outer shell. That's our outer body. That's very visible to us. And then, okay, fine. Then is that what we are? Is the body is us? Can it be just with just this body can we exist? If you think that way, not really, right? We need something else, because the moment we stop breathing, what happens? This body doesn't have any identity anymore. Then people start calling that body. Nobody will say, they will say they won't. I know you would have had a name until we take our last breath. After that, we just become a body, right? So if you have thought about it, that just actually strikes us. So the breath is very important, right? As long as we are breathing, we have an identity. Is that right? So that breath that we are taking, and the action that we are doing, right, with our hands, with our mouth, we are walking, and to be alive, it is like excretion, that, and also for this generation to continue, we are given this reproductive organs and all these things. So this is something that actually makes us function. So the physical body is the structural aspect, and this prana or the life energy or the breath, along with this karmendriyas or action organs, right? As I said, mouth, hands, feet, the organs that we use for excretion and then for reproduction. All these things are called, the five things are called the karmendriyas or the action organs. So that is the next aspect. So for the body to be doing something, we need that life force, the prana or the breath, and along with the karmendriyas. So the prana and the karmendriyas come under what you call as pranamaya kosha. Okay, that is the subtler aspect, because that's not very visible. I mean, hands and all those things are visible, but if you're not doing something, if you're still, right, they're not really active, you don't really feel them, right? So that is subtler than the physical body. So there comes your the pranamaya kosha, or the vital sheath, or the breath, vital energy sheath. So that is the second layer of our existence. So is it just that we are breathing and we are just moving our hands, and we might be just talking something? Is that all we are? Is just the body and the prana? Then let's say that what you call as the mind, right? If you don't have any mind, let's say, I'm not talking about the brain organ, I'm talking about the mind. That then what is mind? If you just ask yourself that question, what really is mind? So can you think about it and just think of some answer that you can give? So mind is basically, you can think of as a conglomeration of thoughts. So it is like, thought is not very organized in that mind, because you'll be let's say that you are working on some program, and all of a sudden there is a news flash on your mobile phone, and then that talks about some like a vaccine that has come up and which is making really good progress. Then you're totally diverted, and then you're talking about coronavirus, how it has affected everybody, and then you are working on a program on your computer, and all of a sudden it goes here, and then you get a call, and from your friend or family member, your thought will be about them. So it's like thoughts basically, but it's unorganized. There is no, it's like kind of the data that you have collected. That is the mind aspect. And then how does it actually, how does the mind get these senses? Through the sensory organs, right? So it is your eyes, nose, and then skin, all these 5 sense organs that we already know, right? And then the tongue, right? So those are the things. Ears. So those are the 5 organs. I think from school, primary school itself, we know all the sense organs. So the mind and the sense organs together are called as our manomaya kosha, or the mental sheath. So that is the third layer that we talk about. So here comes your, what we call as the mental sheath. Okay. So this is subtler than the prana kosha, or the first 2 layers. Annamaya and then pranamaya, then comes the manomaya kosha, or the mental sheath. Okay, fine, we have all these things. Okay, fine, I think we are that. I think that defines us. Is that right? Just think about it a little bit more. So what did we say just when we were discussing about manomaya kosha? It is just unorganized thoughts. It's and then whatever let's say that you had this, and somebody when you're working, especially these days when you're working from home, right? Maybe you are working on a project, and then somebody calls you, and at the same time somebody is knocking at the door. Maybe then some repair person has come to repair the electrical connection in your house. There's so many things going on, correct? Let's say that your mind is just going on and on, here and there. Will you be able to finish any of these tasks? Did you just think about it? No, right? Because it's like all chaotic thoughts in your mind. So at that point, you need something that tells you what is of higher priority, what you have to focus on at that very particular point. You got it? So that is where our intellect comes into the picture. Intellect and intelligence, they are not the same. Intelligence is something that makes us do something, right? We know like how to do math, so that is intelligence, right? So but intellect is having that discerning power. So at any situation, it tells us what is right, what is wrong, whether we should be doing this or doing that. So that type of ability, that is what comes from our what is called as the intellectual sheath or Vijnanamaya Kosha. Okay, that is the fourth layer of our existence. So that is your Vijnanamaya Kosha. So as we see, it's getting smaller and smaller because all these layers are subtler to us, because this is very obvious and then less obvious, and this is even more less obvious. So we are covered. This is more of, okay, fine, I know all these things. And now there is one more layer of our existence. All we are, I mean, if you want to define who you are, is it just body, mind, intellect, and then the prana? Is it all? Then when we actually not there, and then all these things are gone, they're going to stop, right? Then what is that remains, right? What is the core of our existence? So that is where this concept of Anandamaya Kosha, or the ultimate bliss sheath, okay, that is the one that comes. So it is something that it is not very obvious. You have to actually experience it. Just think of something. It can be like a threshold point where you kind of know what you're not, and at the same time you are about to realize what you really are. Okay, so when you're going from, this is not just me. So you can say, I am the body, right? But you cannot say that the body defines me. Body is the only thing that is me, right? No, it's the body is a part of me, and then again the prana thing is also part of me, and then the mind is also part of me, and all these things are part of me, and then obviously the intellect is also part of me. But can I be identified with only any of these sheaths? No, because these are all part of you or our existence. And inside that there is something that is still there. So that is where our the soul, or the ultimate reality that we call, that is something that we can realize. It's like when we are born, right? The soul that comes with a very with pure no unattached things, right? It has all these values and just pure happiness, Satchit Ananda, that is pure existence, knowledge and bliss. That is like the ultimate state of our existence. So that is not something that can be easily explained, but you can think of it as a threshold point where you actually understand who you are not, and at the same time you are about to realize who you are. So that is the transition that we make. So this is where something called happiness analysis that actually we study as part of our yoga course at S. Vyasa Yoga University. It's a beautiful analysis. What really makes us happy? So when we start doing that analysis, we ultimately realize all these material things, or depending on somebody or some action or some event to happen for our happiness, doesn't really bring the real happiness. So this is something that is within us that we have to realize. If I talk about that, that itself is a very nice topic. I will do a separate video on happiness analysis sometime down the lane. But for now, think of it as the very inner core of your existence. That is the Anandamaya Kosha, where you're not really relying on anything else. You can be just you and realize that you are that ultimate bliss or reality, the Brahman. That is what we call. So that is the ultimate level. So we would have to do a lot of sadhana in that path to actually realize that state. Okay, and that is why we have this little tiny doll representing the Anandamaya Kosha. So this is our inner core existence. So now you know why I had kept that stacking dolls. So that is our Panchakosha model. Okay, in very plain terms, so that you can understand how these layers form our existence, okay, as a human being. And how a little bit of background on how this whole Panchakosha model came about in our scripture. Actually, this is explained very well in Taittiriya Upanishad. This Upanishad, this whole thing is explained as a conversation between a guru, the teacher, and the shishya, disciple, and they also happen to be father and son. Okay, and Varuna is the name of the father, and Bhrigu is the name of the son. When the son approaches his father or guru, and he asks, tell me explain what is Brahman and what is reality. So then the guru doesn't really just give an answer. He directs him, gives a pointer. Think of something from which it is all. It is actually something that is responsible for all the beings to be born and for them to live or sustain on this world, and then they all dissolve back into. That is what is Brahman. Okay, then he gives these kind of hints and say you go and contemplate on these points. So that actually kind of tells you what a real guru should do. Guru shouldn't give all the answers to a question. The guru should give a proper guidance and give some pointers how to go about to actually find the answer. When somebody finds the answer himself or herself, then that knowledge stays with that person. Because I think you might have realized that when you're helping your kids out with their studies, if somebody just looks at a guide or a answer book and just takes the answer from there, how they solved a problem and how they understood a concept, it won't stay with them. They might just do it for the exam's sake. After that, it's all forgotten, right? But if you have actually done it yourself and you understood it, it will stay with you no matter how many years down the lane. If somebody asks you that question, you will be able to answer. Just like that, Bhrigu is asked to go and with just those hints, he just goes. And then at first go, he realizes, okay. Then he comes back and say, Anna is Brahman. Annamaya Kosha. He says that is what is. Because he says, okay, the food that is grown, we eat. After we die, we just, then we have to keep eating food in order to sustain our body, right, our existence. And then after we are done, the body goes back to earth, and from the same earth, we are growing that food, right? So it is like a cycle. So he says, then the reality should be, Anna or food or matter. So he says, okay, that is the thing that is it. And then his father says, think about it. You probe further. Then he goes back, and then he realizes, no, it's the prana. Then he comes back to his father and he says, it's the prana that is the ultimate reality. Then his father says, no, you do further contemplation. And then he goes back again and he comes with the Manomaya Kosha. That's the manas that is responsible. And again, he has to do further nididhyasana or contemplation. Again, he goes back and he says intellect, Vijnanamaya Kosha, that is the ultimate reality. And then further he goes, and then he realizes that ultimate Ananda. He doesn't come back with the same question because he realizes he got the answer for his question. So that is beautifully explained in Taittiriya Upanishad. There are, you might say that it's in Samskrita, we won't understand, but as you know, there are so many, commentaries. There's a beautiful commentary by Sri Adi Shankaracharya, actually, that is called Tattva Bodha. That English version of that, commentary is available. It's available for free. It's on. If you just go and Google it, or just go on archive.org. You can find all these commentaries. You can read if you're interested to know further. So that is the background on how this Panchakosha model came along. And then why did I introduce you all to this Panchakosha model is, when we do these yogic practices, right? So there are some practices that are meant for the physical body. Some are meant for the pranamaya kosha, the vital sheath. Some are meant for the manomaya kosha, or the mental sheath, and then some are meant for the intellect sheath, the intellectual sheath, or the vijnanamaya kosha. Some are meant for the anandamaya kosha. So that is where yoga is different from any form of exercise that we do, because that is the constant debate, or that's the question that keeps coming back to us. Now, we do physical exercise. How is yoga any different? Because people think yoga means asanas, or some pranayama. It's not just that. So that is why, in order to understand how yoga is different, we have to understand what this Panchakosha model is. That said, I'm just going to mention some of the yogic practices that we do for each and every layer. Okay, and look at this. What was this? The very first layer we talked about, the physical layer or the Annamaya Kosha. Okay, for this, what do? Asanas, right? Yoga asanas. Okay, asanas is just a part of the yoga shastra, or the science of yoga. And along with that, what do? We do some kriyas, or the cleansing techniques, right? It could be like neti. I have done a video on Jalaneti and Sutra Neti. You could check it out. Basically, the kriyas are meant for internal cleansing, just like how we wash the external body. This is for the internal organs cleansing. Okay, so the kriyas, and then the diet. So unless we eat a good diet, you won't be able to maintain a healthy body. So that those come under the practices for the physical layer or Annamaya Kosha. Okay, and then comes the Pranamaya Kosha. So the Pranamaya Kosha, this is the second layer, the vital sheath. So for this, we have all these breathing exercises, and then the pranayama practices. I have done a pranayama intro video, and along with the Nadi Shuddhi pranayama or Anulom Vilom pranayama. As we go along, I'll be adding more of those yogic practices. So for now, you can know, all the breathing exercises, and then the breathing techniques are pranayama. Those all come under the Pranamaya Kosha practices. Okay, and comes the Manomaya Kosha. So Manomaya Kosha, basically, this gets subtler. Then you might think, won't they be sufficient? No, because if you don't control your mind, if you let your emotions play, the way they want, you will be in deep trouble, because all the problems start with the emotions and your thoughts. If you don't check your thoughts, those actually result in something called Adi Vyadi. There is another concept of Adi Vyadi that we will cover later, and in another video, not in this video. So Adhija Vyadi, that is basically stress-induced diseases. Okay, so psychosomatic disease is something that the term that we use for such diseases. This is actually these are all the diseases that actually percolate to our physical body because of the mind. It could be stress-induced or emotions that are not in check. All these things. So for the Manomaya Kosha, we have something called the Bhakti Yoga. All the bhajans, the devotional songs that we sing, and the emotional culturing. See, this is another process. What do we mean by culturing, emotional culturing? Basically, transforming all your thoughts, because we have all sorts of thoughts, right? It could be very, passionate about something. We have to really achieve something. That is what we call as Rajasic thoughts. And Tamasic, we're very lazy, we don't want to do anything. We just want to sit and get everything. So those are all Tamasic. Sattvic is more like compassionate and, devoted to something, caring for others and all these things. So all these not so good emotions should be transformed into sattvic or good right emotions. So that is called emotion culturing. How does that happen? Getting involved in these meditation techniques. So the meditation techniques and along with the devotional songs and devotional aspects, listening to these bhajans or singing those things, and also the trying to be in a company, all these things, right? It will help you transform your thoughts, how you think about things and about people. So those are the yogic practices for Manomaya Kosha. Okay, you got why, how the yogic science is playing, so nicely into all layers of our existence. Now we come to the intellectual layer of the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So what are the practices for this? So what happens is the Manomaya Kosha, that if you look at this 5 layer of existence, right? Manomaya kosha is in the middle. So if something happens there, something wrong happens there, it affects both upward and downward. So as I said, if the mind gets very stressed and all these things, it can percolate down and it can affect your body and also the breath rate, because when you are very excited, that breath rate, the pulse rate goes up and heart rate, and then eventually that person will end up with a heart problem, or right, something like that. So and here the emotions, if they cloud, if you become clouded by all your emotions, unchecked emotions, it can affect your intellectual ability as well. Then you lose your ability to distinguish between the right and the wrong things. So for that also we have yogic practices. For that, what we call as yogic counseling, and there are lecture sessions. You can say it's pretty much like the psychiatric counseling. Yes, it is kind of, but here we don't just use medicines. We try to understand what's going on, and we try to help the person out in a very different, following a different approach, what we call as a pratipaksha bhava. So it's like when somebody is doing something wrong, let's say a person is addicted to cigarettes, right? Even though the cigarette pack says smoking is injurious to your health, you have seen so many people buying packs after packs and playing with their health, correct? So, but what happens is, if you keep saying that, see, what you're doing is not right, you have to change the way you think, this is how it will happen. And if you keep listening to those lectures, in a very different way, then, and the yogic counseling, where this type of approach is taken, then you have then when your mind realizes, so this is not right what I'm doing, I have to change the way I am leading my life, the mindset, everything, then you can make a difference in your own life, right? So that is where, those are some of the exercises or the yogic practices for the Vijnanamaya Kosha. And finally comes our favorite little core, the little core of existence, which is not very obvious, but is without it we are not there. So what is that? That is the Anandamaya Kosha. For that, what are the practices that yoga suggests? So the very first thing is Karma Yoga. And Karma Yoga, the very definition we have to understand, Karma Yoga means doing something without expecting anything in return. Service-oriented activities, that actually helps. And then getting involved in some of these, what do we call as yogic games. It could be just a simple game, it could be like just counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And remember, we used to play this game. Every multiple of 5, you have to, you shouldn't be saying that number, but just make a sound, clap your hands when that 5 or multiple of 5 comes, something like that. So that type of game, or it could be like making action with your hands. So all these type of games, fun games. So when you're involved, you don't really think about who you are. You just get involved in that game and you really enjoy it. And that is actually getting in touch with your true happiness, in touch with the your inner core. And all these yogic games, and then happy assembly, what do you call as like just mingling with people and doing all these fun activities. So all the yogic practices that we do for our core existence, core of our existence, that Anandamaya Kosha. So that is the that is how this yoga, as the science of yoga, actually helps for the wellness of our whole existence, not just any particular layer. So and sound mind in a sound body. That is what Swami Vivekananda said. So that is so true. So that is why the knowledge of the Panchakoshas, the 5 sheets of our existence, is very important. I hope you found this video useful. And as always, Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Keep smiling. Thank you.